this session this afternoon. Myself in my QETA role is currently very jealous. So thank you for joining this afternoon. I'm going to make a confession. I've had a 6-period day, and so if I get a little bit jumbled this afternoon, I didn't plan that very well. I've been teaching year 11s in the new syllabus and year 12s in the old syllabus today. So pull me up if you can see me going in the wrong direction. As Mel mentioned, I have been very proud to be an author on the new edition of Economics for the Real World. If you've seen the little session we did for Units 1 and 2, you'll know that it's the very textbook that I learned economics in myself when I was at school, but of course many editions ago. But a lot of the theory is still, of course, very very relevant. So we'll get straight into it this afternoon. I'm just very keen to know, amongst these 3 pages of guests, whether we've got new economics teachers or very experienced economics teachers here today. So if you can use the QR code and take use your camera with that, we'll open up the Mentimeter and have a look and see. There we go. So no newbies just yet. Oh, there you go. There's some newbies.
And you can also access the Mentimeter via the meeting chat. So you can just click on the link if you would prefer to do that.
Perfect. Fantastic. So what a great mix there. So that's really good. So I hopefully have designed this good for everyone. Certainly our first year teachers to economics, all the way through to the experienced teachers who are very used to using this textbook. Hopefully some of you have already been using the Units 1 and 2, but there's some really fabulous things in the Units 3 and 4 that I know you'll all be really keen to see. So we will get into it. So firstly, how does this new edition support you in your teaching in your economics classroom? First of all, it is aligned to the syllabus, and from what I know and all the research I did, it is still the only textbook that aligns to the Queensland syllabus, and we are very unique in Queensland. In most other states in the country, economics is declining. In Queensland, we are growing, which is fantastic, and we think the reason is, one, because it's the best subject, of course, but a lot of economists are telling us, and professors at the University of New South Wales, I don't know whether anyone had students in the Australian Economics Olympiad. I certainly had a few over the weekend, and it's written by a professor at the University of New South Wales, and she's looked at the HSC syllabus versus the Queensland, and she absolutely loves the Queensland syllabus. The way that we get students to analyse and evaluate is very different to the HSC. So whilst there are some great textbooks out there from New South Wales, you will find that it is very difficult to find questions that align to our Queensland syllabus. So yes, it is the 2025. There are some changes, and we'll go through the headline changes in the syllabus. Most of you would know, if you're certainly teaching in 11 and 12, that the new syllabus has only 4 objectives, and that's selecting one, which was always very difficult to mark, and we always found we were double penalising students. That's how I certainly felt. That's now been moved into the other objectives. Certainly the new textbook has those annotated exemplars to both a short response and those extended response questions, and that's really about crafting high-scoring exam responses. For those of you, and you might be new to economics, but potentially you've taught in business or in accounting, it is a very different subject. It's very humanities, but we do a lot of data, and so having those exemplars there to see how you incorporate data into those responses is really important. We also have what everyone's been screaming for, which is the external exam support chapter. That one has been written with the help of Dr. Deborah De Silva, also a QETA member and also an assessor with the QCAA, and Deb has done an amazing job. She's busted a lot of myths about the external exam, but of course we haven't got the 25 out of 25 in the external exam yet, and so we hope with this textbook we can really help students get there. So what I thought would be good this afternoon is to see what we're all noticing. I'm noticing some real differences, particularly in the marking. But what are we noticing in the 2025 syllabus? And maybe you can just talk to the ISMG. What are you noticing when you're marking between the year 11s, what the current year 11s versus the current year 12s? Hopefully people are noticing some things. I did meant to say bring your 2025 syllabus with you. We're not noticing anything in the new syllabus. Oh yes, the link is up above. Link is up above.
Sorry, Nat, you
Oh,
might.
wait, let me provide. Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry, Suze.
It's saying you need to change slides. That might be why.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it because I'm not in present?
10. Yes, there you go.
Oh, sorry.
Everyone, if you try now,
Oh, should I go back and go forward?
and go back. It should let you do that now. That way. Brilliant.
That worked. Sorry. No more selecting. Yes. Okay, great. So we do have some teachers with us who have only taught the new one. It's going to be a lot easier for you, Kate. If only we all had the new one when we were teaching the 2019. More a focus on balance of payments. Yeah. First time. Yeah, it is much easier to mark against. There is the emphasis on info and data. That's correct. Yeah. Oh, wow. So we do have a HSC person. Welcome. So what you will notice in particular is that the HSC is very theoretical. Very much the students can really study and do really well. Unfortunately, they required to do a little bit more in the Queensland syllabus. It's not just about theory and applying that theory. It really is about getting unseen data. I often teach boys who take maths as well, and I call it's the complex unfamiliar. Economics is really in the analysis and evaluation space, that complex unfamiliar. It's very hard to study for. Economic ideas, yes, I am loving that the perspectives part of the synthesis in evaluating. I really do think that is going to encourage students to think more about perspectives when they're writing evaluation. And often students really struggle between that effect in the analysis space, a cause effect, and then transferring that into evaluation. And the perspectives really helped there. You're telling students that unless you are providing those perspectives, unfortunately, you can't get the discerning. You'll be pulled down to eval. Models are necessary. Yes, that's right. It's not the and or the or. Remember though, models are still, they don't need to be drawn. So there's nothing in there that says they have to be drawn. They just need to be perceptively applied. So I tell particularly my weaker students that if you are not confident drawing in year 12 today, if you're not comfortable drawing your ADAS, then talk to it and don't draw it. There is still not a requirement to draw that. Interpretation of patterns and trends. Yes, that's probably my favorite change. So we always knew that interpretation meant to draw meaning, but having that explicit draw meaning from is really, I think, catching. It certainly caught a few of my students that before in the 2019 syllabus, they would give a data point, a from and a to. They would say whether it's growing and potentially put some context to it, but that's not enough to get discerning meaning drawn from that pattern and trend. Yes, intended purpose, that's exactly right. And eval's broken into, yes, smaller groups. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm noticing all of these things. The drawing meaning is the great one, the perspectives. One that I've noticed, I have year 11s doing their IA2 now, and because select is gone, in select we had the data bullet point, which meant that really they had to have data in their analysis and their evaluation. It had to be throughout the report. So interestingly, that one is gone. The data is now in analysis and they still have to be perceptive in their use in evaluation, but the data being explicitly mentioned in evaluation is not there. So that goes to the point too that they really need to be drawing from their analysis when they are writing their evaluation now. So I particularly like that drawn from the analysis, which has been added to evaluation. Okay, fantastic. Now I know I have to present that screen to make that move across, so I'll do that next time. Okay, so let's do a quick little rundown of what are the big differences in the syllabus in units 3 and 4. And for, I think it was Kate who's just come to the new one, this won't really be very relevant, but for those of us who have been teaching in the 2019, this is probably just a very high level overview. So unit 3, topic 1 is now exchange rates, trade patterns, theories, and those balance of payments. So we can't get away from those. And topic 2 now focuses on globalization. So I have bolded that one because I do think that's a fabulous opportunity in IA2 now. So our IA2s used to be very balance of payments focused, very international trade liberalization focused, but now we have this wonderful opportunity to incorporate globalization into our IA2. We still have barriers to trade and trade agreements. But of course, we also have the WTO and the IMF now as well. And all the syllabus says is that it has to be contextualized to an issue that has some significance to Australia. So there's some really great juicy topics in there, and we can finally move away from the balance of payments as a research. I'm not sure anyone out there, I mean, maybe there is, maybe there's some balance of payments lovers out there. I always liked balance of payments because I teach it like accounting. It's the debits and the credits. But if you don't have an accounting background, often balance of payments is really hard to understand. So with that point, so I'm going to make you do one more little bit of thinking. One more little bit of thinking that will help us all, because we do need to start thinking about IA2s and IA3s. I think that's about August. We have to have them ready. But what are we thinking about some ideas for our IA2 topics? So I will now make sure I'm in the right screen this time. So I'll go present. And there we go. So what are we thinking? Has anyone started drafting their IA2s? And do we have any ideas, even though I just gave you a couple there? Hopefully the Mentimeters worked this time. Yeah, great. Certainly Trump has given us a lot, hasn't he? A lot in our teaching in every subject. Yes, multinational is another one that I do think, and students really love multinationals. They really love those big corporates. They love the idea of market power and how that shifts. I don't know, in particular, boys are very keen on tax avoidance, and so that really links into that idea of multinational corporations. globalization between Australia and China. Evaluate the claim that Australia's dependence on China makes. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Globalization. Yes, absolutely. Whoever said that about the concern about globalization, I agree. Very, it's very qualitative, isn't it? The concept of globalization. And while there is some research with data, I do agree there might need to be some kind of addition to the globalization to make it enough, to make it juicy enough for that analysis part. Yes, absolutely. How globalized. Yeah. Yes, I think that we will still have our trade with China. That's right, absolutely, and free trade agreements, of course. But hopefully, when endorsement comes around, I think there's a bit of a worry that we'll see some balance of payments. We can't do that one anymore. That one's going to be out of scope. So anyone who's been relying on a balance of payments for some time, we have to look a bit further afield now. Yeah, possible other trading partners. Yeah, that's right. And how the patterns are changing. So lots in there, but I really like that point about that making sure there is that complexity in the data so that they can draw out those ideas and then draw upon those in order to bring that into their evaluation. Trump's protection regime, yeah, I think that's a fantastic one. And I don't know whether anyone, our boys did out their IA2 last year, and apologies, I keep saying boys, but I teach boys. There was that fabulous article that came out from the RBA on the, and if anyone needs some data, Diana Musina presents a fabulous weekly data set. And it was the Trade Policy Uncertainty Index. And so that is you could even have that as a context point. What does that mean? Yeah, immigration. Fabulous. Yeah, that's a great one. I hope everyone's writing these down. I'm going to need to snip this. This is great. Yeah, really good. Fabulous. So I think the students are really going to love this movement in 2025. I think I will be very happy not to read a balance of payments report probably for the rest of my life on foreign debt and foreign investment. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for all of that. I hope, should I scroll up so everyone can take a snip if you need it? Or you can watch it back on the video. That's right, we're recording. So no, that's fantastic. Thank you. So if we move now into, we're happy not to read about chapter. Yes, no more chapter. If we move into now Unit 4, of course, this is where the biggest changes are. And this is why you absolutely have to buy the Unit 3 and 4, and then, of course, move on to the 1 and 2 the following year. But Unit 4, we have a bit more clarity. We have 3 topics now instead of 2. So we now have this kind of budget focus, and we're looking at the difference between cyclical issues in the budget and structural issues. And there's always that fabulous part in the book where we do break the budget down, and you can see that, which is always a really good way. So even, as we move on in time, you can get that page in the budget and really work it through with your students as to what part of this is cyclical and what part of this is structural. So topic 1 is now the theory. So our HSC teacher, you'll love that one. Topic 1, that's what you would have been teaching in New South Wales. Topic 2 focuses on past policy, and again, that's a little bit HSC focused as well. But topic 3 is the clanger. It's the future fiscal policy and monetary policy and that microeconomic reform. And that was really came about because we know that the external exam is written 2 years ahead. So we know that it's going to be something that potentially has happened or hasn't happened, or they thought would happen at the time, but then didn't eventuate. And so we know that it is unplanned. And that's that concept of complex unfamiliar. You really need to know your theory. You really need to know how to make connections and interconnections in order to be successful in that external exam. So of course that means the IA3, and we were all screaming for it because we basically all taught fiscal and monetary policy alongside what we were doing for IA3 because it just made so much sense. So now we can do a little bit more of that, and the students can include that in their essays, which of course in the past was always, you know, they didn't really need to do that. So we will have more range in choices in that IA3, and now the external exam will focus on topics 1 and 3. So they still need those theoretical underpinnings, and then they need to be able to apply it to unfamiliar circumstances. And that's why anytime you can get your hands on data that's unfamiliar is a really good practice exercise for your students. The QCEE won't use RBA chart packs. They're going to be something that is unfamiliar to students. So in terms of the pedagogy, so what have we changed for this new edition? Most of you who have used our older edition, if you're like me, you turn over the page and it'd just be this huge swath of text. And of course, our students don't like that. They want it chunked. And as teachers, we want that as well. So that, of course, is the main thing that you'll notice when you pick up the new textbook. The chunking of text with headings makes it lots more digestible for our students, and I think for us as well. Sometimes we're rereading it on the way to the classroom. It does make, and it absolutely increases their motivation. I think if they can get their way through to the next text box, often that's a little motivator for them. But if they just turn the page and see that whole thing of text, it does turn the learning off sometimes. In terms of other things we've done, we have tried to do concept maps and summaries for students. And we know that it has a really positive effect on learning when students are able to draw that together. And it is good modelling once in the textbook that then you try and model something in the class as to how you've tried to concept map a particular topic. So hopefully that really engages your students as well. And certainly my students who have been using the Unit 1 and 2 really like the fact that at the end of a topic, they can come along and do this great concept map. The other thing, of course, that's included is the QCEE has that big focus on cognitive verbs. Not so much in the external exam, you'll notice, but certainly in the internals, preparing students for the depth of response that you need for a verb such as explain versus the cognitive verb of recall or describe. So they are much lower level order cognitions. And so what you'll notice is we do try and build up the cognitions as best we can in the triangle. But then, of course, in the answers, which is probably the best thing for this textbook, is you'll notice in the answers, they should be have a lot more depth for that explanation. Of course, in our explain cognitive verb, we should be going into the how and the why, whereas a recall is just your straight recall of knowledge. What is a meaning? What is a definition? That's your straight recall, moving all the way up to your explain. And things like distinguish. What are you doing in your answer when you have a distinguish cognitive verb versus a more lower order, such as describe? So they are used throughout the textbook. We also have the updated case studies and data. And so I think we did have a question before we started today from someone with how can you build skills for the ISMG in analysis and evaluation? Well, these are the types of activities that you provide with your students. So using this type of data, and of course this you can get from the RBA chart pack, some of them have been summarized from ABS. Some of these were very big spreadsheets that were then turned into data, but using these is a really fabulous tool when trying to build those analysis skills. We have various things that we use. Certainly at my school, we do things like what's known as the 4 Ds and a couple of Cs. And we say, you know, what are some dates, some data, direction. So dates, data, direction. Due to, so what is the cause? And then so what? So all these things lead up to a cause and then an effect. So you have covered the interpretation of the trend by providing the data and the date and the direction, and then you're going further with that meaning by doing the due to and the so what. So simply coming into class with one of these, it's a great starter activity just to, as the students are coming into the class, they know that they need to sit down and try and interpret the graph in front of them. So that's what you do often. It could be an RBA explainer that you use. The RBA explainers are fantastic. They've got lots of data as well, and they break down how do you interpret that data. And for Kate, I think it was, who's coming from New South Wales, that's our big difference in Queensland, interpreting that data and making meaning from it. And then as you move closer to year 12, you're really trying to then form connections. Okay, if this means this in inflation, then I know we should be in this position in the business cycle. So what would economic growth be looking like? And even if they don't have that data, they can use that as a little test. And then you can go and find the economic growth data and test whether that theory has actually happened in reality. So we also have done these, I think I talked about the little theory summaries. We've also got these little representational graphics, and these have come, well, from a variety of places. The RBA have started doing a little bit of this as well. It just tries to break down for students really how do you look at a formula like AD when it's just written like that on the board? How can you draw meaning from that to make it real for students? So breaking those really complex ideas down into very simple little parts, and it does make it a lot easier to teach when students can see those things. You'll also notice in the summaries, we do try and do a lot of cost benefits, because of course that's where we're going with our evaluation, but who are the winners and who are the losers? And I think when we did the Mentimeter before and people are noticing about perspectives, this becomes really important. You really should be, with a lot of things with your students, trying to get them to think about who wins in this situation and who loses, because that's the decision they need to make in evaluation. And to be discerning, they really have to be showing that they're weighing those two things up and then making that decision. Okay, I know that there's these benefits and there is this small cost, therefore the overall effect is positive. That's what we're trying to get students to do. So having tables like that really draws the students to think, okay, when I have an economic problem, I know I need to think about the benefits to that and the costs in order for me to make a decision. So for those of us, I think it was 25% or so that are really new to economics, first of all, welcome. We're so glad to have you. We need you. We are an absolutely thriving subject here in Queensland, and please reach out to experienced economics teachers and grab all of their knowledge, because there's lots of amazing ways to teach economics, but the textbook will absolutely give you a great start. So first of all, there is the teaching plan. Hopefully some of you have noticed that the QCAA have updated their TLAPs, and so there are some great ideas in there, but the textbook does it for you. So there is a teaching plan which really sets out term by term, this page to this page. It goes down to that granular detail about what needs to be covered in order to make sure you get through what is a lot of syllabus material in a short, really, period of time. That second bullet point, I'm sure I can't hear the wahoos, but I'm sure they're happening. There are solutions for the check for understanding and those chapter revision questions. And I know certainly when you're coming through to class sometimes and you know you have to check the homework, having that handy is really good. There is Cognero Assess, and I'm sure our sales team might go over that as well. But that is part of the online package with the textbook, which is really fabulous. We also have designed some worksheets, which again, if you're late to class one day and you know you've got to cover an activity on a particular topic, they're great, just printable worksheets that you can take with you to class. There is a downloadable external exam, which is part of that separate EA chapter, which is also fantastic, and the ebook. And I've put there ideal for OneNote integration. If you are on OneNote, having those snips of the textbook and being able to draw students from their learning to what they should then read in detail that night after that lesson is really, really valuable. There is, of course, also the web links throughout the textbook, so they have all been updated. I know certainly how frustrating it was in the last edition when you thought you found something really good and then the web link didn't work anymore. So they are now all up to date. So this is what the answers will look like. These are some examples of the check for understanding and the review chapters. What we really wanted to point to here was those explanations for incorrect choices on our multiple choice. So we know in the external exam that the way that the external exam is written, particularly those multiple choice, is they're written with distractors in mind. So we know that they're written to try and distract students. So the best way for them to get past those distractors is to really, when answering every multiple choice question, not only determine the answer, but determine why the other ones are wrong. And in doing that practice, you really will build their understandings. And I think that's it from me, and I'm handing it over to the sales team. And obviously I've done PD before and know that I like to finish on time, Dave, so I'll hand it over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Natalie. That was a really great presentation. And even me as a humanities teacher, but not an economics teacher, I can see there's so much amazing new, fresh content in there. And the pedagogy with the chunked content, the modeled examples, differentiation, the cognitive verbs, all of that is just so awesome to see. So I'm sure you as the teacher is excited to have a look at these resources. So my name's David. I'm a learning consultant, so I'm sort of your point of contact, like your sales rep. I'm also joined by Amanda Cunnington, so I handle the south side, the Gold Coast, and some regional areas. Amanda is on the north side, the Sunshine Coast, and also has some regional areas. So our contact details will be on the next slide or one of the future ones. But what you're looking at in front of you here is basically our books availability. So units 1 and 2 is in print and live on our online platform right now. I know some of you are using it already, and we've got units 3 and 4 coming out very soon in September. I'm also excited to say that we've got some page proofs available for units 3 and 4 also available right now. So some of you may have looked at those already. We've got some digital links that we'd be more than happy to share with you. Susanna in the chat has put in some links there. So if you'd like to meet with Amanda or I with a meeting so we can look at the digital platform or chat about the book in more depth, we can do that. Or if you'd just like to have a look at the page proofs directly, there's a couple of links in the chat there. So go for a scroll and fill out one of those. Just onto the next slide, please, Natalie. I'll just talk about the our online component. So it's a little bit different if you've been using the previous edition. We were on Nelson Net. Now we are on Nelson MindTap. So again, some of you might have done these steps, but this is basically how to do it. We are based on a class set adoption model. So when your school purchases a class set of the physical books or digital codes, you've got the option of which one you'd prefer. Make sure you let us know as the learning consultant, and we can assist you with gaining access to the online materials. You will need to create a Nelson digital account. Some of you might already have one. That's totally fine. You just got to log in. Otherwise, you're creating an account, and you need to request access on Nelson MindTap. If your school has purchased a class set, we approve that access, and then you can go ahead and create a course. And then that's where you will find all of those awesome resources, such as the Cogniro test generator, all of those solutions that Natalie was talking about, as well as a whole bunch of extra web links and other resources that's on there as well. So Nelson Mindtap has a lot of really great things on there for you. So that would be the steps to do it. If you need some assistance with that, if your school has purchased a class set, but you don't have access to the teacher resources yet, make sure you reach out to us and we can help you do that one. Just onto the next slide, please. In terms of arranging a meeting, if you'd like to have a look at these page proofs, we can send them directly to you. But if you prefer to have a flick through the physical book, we might have a couple of printed copies of the page proofs around Brisbane, but we're more than happy to send you the digital link if you want to have a scroll.